stand before you today to discuss a subject that affect homes, communities, affect careers. Yet it remains one of the least talked about issues among men. I like to call it the eating mental health crisis because when we use the word mental health, many people, out of stigmatization, immediately think about mental illness. But mental health is much broader than that. Okay. Um, and just like everyone has a physical health, everyone also has a mental health, right? So, mental health for me, I just want to define it in a very flat footed way, is about how we think, how we feel, and how we respond to stress, how we relate with others, how we make decisions with our spouse in our career, and ultimately how we function in everyday life. I always like to say that the strongest men are not those who never break. The strongest men are those who know when to stop carrying the weight alone. Many people carry the weight alone because the topic or the statement around provision has been weaponized. If you agree with me, many people have used that as a finger to hide behind, to cheat on their spouse, to have what I call confident ignorance, doing the wrong thing and yet, believing that it's all fine. And like I said earlier, every man in this room has mental health. Every man has mental health, just as everyone has physical health. So the question is not whether you have mental health. The question is how healthy is your mental health and your emotional health. Because many people are physically strong. In fact, I used to have a client. The gentleman was running a very popular gym in Lagos, Nigeria, and as physical as he looked, he was struggling with mental illness. And many people who hide behind activities don't even know what they're dealing with because we're growing up, the stigma around men don't cry, you should do better than that. So for generations, many men have been taught to be providers before they are protectors, or before they're problem solvers, or before they're allowed to have problem of their own. So many men feel that once I can provide, then I can ditch the other parts, and that's why we've had many ladies who perhaps have absentee fathers, and because of the absentee father or the absentee fatherhood figure, many ladies that are of marriageable age, they are looking for their fiancé, they're looking for their father in their fiancé. All right. So when ladies sit in front of me in my therapy sessions and I'm trying to, elicit exactly what the challenge is, once I hear, I grew up in Lagos, my dad left us when I was 8. I don't have a relationship with him. It just begins to paint the picture to me because they're peculiar, even though I don't like to, to generalize, but there's certain features that comes around that, and it's a culture thing, it's a generational thing. Men have grown up to hear real men don't cry, man up, handle it yourself, don't let anyone see you as you see your weakness, you have to be strong for the family. And I've had to sit with men in counseling therapy sessions where many times they have bottled up, they bottled up their emotions in such a way that something small happens and they explode or they implode. All right. So when we talk about men don't talk, it's we need, I always, when I have the privilege to speak to men, I always say that we need ambassadors, who will be mental health advocates for men, ambassadors who will create forum, listening forum, where we first need to to stop stigmatizing men opening up, being vulnerable. Unfortunately, also, some women have used men who open up, used what they have said against them. So I always say that it's not that men don't talk; they haven't just found the right platform where they can express their pain, where they can express their pain points, where they can express the things that affect them. Because many people became experts at functioning while suffering silently. Or maybe I'll put it this way: many people have become experts at functioning, while silently suffering. Either way, they wake up early in the morning, they go to work, they lead meetings, they lead an amazing team, they pay bills, they attend church. Perhaps some of them are even leaders in church. I've had countless sessions with pastors who are dealing with issues, but they have taught to, and I'll use a pastor as an example, like a CEO, or like, for those that don't speak Yoruba, I'll try and interpret it. People that Yorubas call Olori Ebi, the head of the family, right? Many times they are leading, but they are bleeding, but yet they chose to lead, right? And that's what one thing that I've seen a lot of men do. They have a responsibility to lead, but they're bleeding. Bleeding metaphorically means that they're dealing with issues, that they don't want to share, and that's why some of them indulge in alcohol, some of them indulge in, cheating on their spouse, some of them indulge in being a workaholic. I mean, when I see men who brag about being a workaholic, that's a symptom. There's always a lot, you know, behind. Can everyone hear me? Just want to be sure that everyone can hear me.
Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you. I just
brilliant.
wanted to
Yeah.
confirm if she can. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So the men have grown up to show up for everyone. Yet beneath the surface, many are carrying anxiety, they are carrying depression, they're carrying burnout, unresolved trauma, childhood trauma, particularly. Many of them are dealing with financial pressure, marital stress, grief. Many men are lonely, particularly in the Western world. There's loneliness, they're dealing with shame, dealing with emotional exhaustion and all of that. As a therapist for close to 2 decades, I've learned something very profound, and I like to always share it. You see, people rarely break down because life is difficult. No, no. People break down because they have carried difficult things for too long, for far too long, right? And the greatest tragedy is not always that men, are struggling. The greatest tragedy rather, is that many struggle in silence until the silence becomes unbearable. Many men struggle in silence. I've sat in, coaching sessions, therapy sessions with men, that they busted into tears because I touched the pain points. Many men have asked me, this is the first time someone is ever going to ask me this question, right? So today, my goal is not simply to talk about mental health or mental illness. My goal in my 20 minutes is to challenge or how we define strength. I think that's where the problem is. We have defined strength as, provision. I one of the fastest selling products we have in our organization is marital distress, particularly for people who have relocated. And some of them got away with the fact that when they were back home, they had what I call a cultural family where the woman is dependent on the man. Okay. They moved to the Western world where sadly they have now moved into what I call a contemporary marriage where both parties are independent. Right now, for those of that faith based, I always say that kingdom marriage works anywhere. Right? Because you in in contemporary marriage, the woman is independent of the man. In cultural marriage, the man the woman in contemporary marriage rather, yes, it's independent. In cultural marriage, the woman is dependent on the man. In kingdom marriage, both of them are interdependent, right? But sadly, the operating system they brought from, Africa I've been collapsed here. There are many people who come to our DMs and say, "Oh, we want marital distress." Da, 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 da. By the time I give them my fees, they run away. You know, sometimes I try to do a discount just to save a family. I had to even do a video on my page, because the UK police had to say that Nigerian women, stop embarrassing your husbands, stop bringing cases to the police station. I know the root of everything is because in Africa, we run a cultural marriage, even though both of them can be praying in tongues and be deaconesses and deacons where they worship. But reality is that they're running, they have an Apple phone, but yeah, they're running it with a Nokia operating system. So they want a kingdom marriage because I've seen couples sit in front of me and I ask them, so what kind of a home do you want to build? They say, oh, I want my kitchen to be godly, all of those. Then some of them use 10 minutes just narrating what they want. One question they can't always answer is, so who do you need to become to produce those kind of children? Then they go mute, right? So why am I saying all of this? I'm saying all of this because I want us to change how we define strength, right? It was one of my mentors, a man called Carl Rogers, that says that the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. Now, my hope today is that every man in this room, you know, give them themselves the permission. Let me put it this way: not permission to be weak, but permission to be fully human. Many men are not human because when men heal, when men feel, marriages heal. Men heal. When they're human, they heal. When they're human, marriages heal, because society has taught men that strength is in provision. As much as that's not a lie, but that's not the complete truth. You know, and I always say that when men heal, generations change. Trauma is passed from one generation to another generation, and unknowingly to many people, what we call, permit me to mention this, what we call spiritual problem, generational curse, is actually generational behavior that hasn't found expression. All right. So that being said, let's just begin with the reality. Across the world, I have clients in over 5 continents of the world, from America to Canada to UK to Africa to Australia. And so when I'm talking about data, across the world, men are facing increasing levels of emotional distress. They're facing financial breakdown, they're facing relationship breakdown, they're facing career instability. There's pressure to succeed, there's social isolation. This one is not talked about enough. There's digital overload. They're on Facebook, Instagram, they're on TikTok, and they have what I call FOMO, fear of missing out. Right. So many of them hide behind that screen in the name of, I just want to keep tab with what is happening. So many men are surviving rather than living. Sadly, many of them suffer in silence because they believe that asking for help is a taboo. They believe that asking for help diminishes their masculinity. But many people look successful. I've had clients who drove to when I was in Nigeria, I had clients who drove in my office. Oh, when my secretary says, oh, I've got someone, oh, who's that? I can see the CCTV camera. Oh, who's that? Oh, it's so person. I mean, bring the car of that. You can't drive the car of a year if you're not comfortable. About people bring German machines when they're filling in the form, they leave, in front of the beach in Lekki, across the bridge in Banana Island. The very, high network individuals, but yet they're suffering and smiling internally. However, many of them have also learned to now find coping mechanisms. I don't want to overflog that because of time. Many of them have a good salary, but you see, salary cannot cure loneliness. I say that to many a lot. Many of them have very good machines. I've seen cars driven in cars to, for private sessions, and I mean, it doesn't cure loneliness, you know. And marriage cannot automatically fix emotional wounds. Many men go into marriage with emotional wounds. and money cannot replace inner peace. I've had I'm not sure how many people know this movie, The Rich Also Cry. I practically can relate with that statement because I've seen many rich also cry. So some people who are below the uh, middle of the pyramid, if you once I just have money like this, my problem is over. There are people who have money and it perhaps is the beginning of their problem. Number two, why men struggle to seek help. I need to mention that because it's not because men don't have, emotions or they don't have problem. It's because many men were never taught on what to do with those emotions. They were not taught. Many men were taught on how to conceal the emotions. They were taught on how to, live in denial. Not many of them were taught, and it's from high school, from secondary school. I mean, most boys grow up into adulthood emotionally undertrained. Let me say that again. Many boys grow into adulthood emotionally undertrained because we teach boys mathematics, we teach them science, we teach them sports, we teach them career, we teach them, I mean, the list is endless, but very few are taught how to process rejection. I have a client who just signed up, our son, and the guy is in high school. Sadly, they didn't teach him how to process rejection. So left high school, was about to get into university, and was attempting to have his first girlfriend. Even though, yeah, it might not be the right time, but the guy almost entered into depression, almost started hallucinating because he was not taught how to process rejection. Many men are not taught how to communicate disappointment. They're not taught how to regulate anger. They're not taught how to, recover from failure. They're not taught how to, ask for help without feeling ashamed. And so many become emotionally isolated. They just bottle things up and hide behind the screen, not because they don't have anybody, but because they believe nobody should know. That feeling of, oh, let's keep it within the family, da, 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 da. And like I said, the heaviest burden men carry is the belief that they must carry every burden alone. Can I say that again? The heaviest burden many men carry is that they believe that they must carry the burden alone. Okay? I need to go to number 3 point. I don't know how many more minutes I have. Number three, there's cultural and social expectation. Now, culture has given men what I call admirable responsibilities: leadership, provision, protection. You know, these things are valuable. I'm not living in denial of them. But you see, the problem is that the problem begins when responsibility is confused with emotional silence. They say, "Oh, he's tired, but he's big." That is tired because he's been busy. And the reality is that many men believe that if I admit I'm struggling, I'm failing. Many men believe that nothing could be further from the truth or many people use my truth against me if I say it out. Many believe that healthy leadership includes humility. And so those who are faith-based, they think that not opening up is a sign of humility. And some people hide under it is well. God will do it. But the reality remains that I think it was Carl Brown that said that vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. I'm going to say that again. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. And you see, the strongest leaders, let me put it this way, or the strongest leader is not the one who doesn't struggle. No, the strongest leader is the one who refuses to pretend that he's struggling. Can I say that again? The strongest leader is not the one who never struggles. The strongest leader is the one who refuses to pretend that he's not struggling. Number four, let me also talk about emotional suppression and consequences. Now, emotions never disappear. They usually reappear in the future. So suppressed emotions simply change form. Sadness become anger, fear becomes control, loneliness becomes workaholism. I'm seeing many men who are workaholics and they brag about it. Well, I just slept for 4 hours. You can imagine. There's something behind that. As much as I'm a stickler to hard work, I mean, my work ethic is out of this world. But reality is that there must be a balance. So many of them believe, I mean, they don't know that shame becomes physical illness. They don't understand that unprocessed pain often leaks into people we love the most. So I've seen, what I call transferred aggression. You accumulated, why did this? Then one day he said, make it, but you made amala, and you started shouting. It's not the food that is the problem. It's the fact that there's been a lot of emotions that have been compressed. And that's why many relationship conflicts are not really about communication. No, it's about unprocessed pain. Because the truth be told, that the many relationships have issues because it's about unresolved emotional pain. So oftentimes I tell couples, until pain is processed, it will be projected. I say that in my therapy sessions. Until pain is processed, it will be projected on your children, projected on your wife. Because many men don't express emotions, they express symptoms. Can I say that again? Many men don't express emotions, they express symptoms. Symptoms like anger, silence, withdrawal, irritability. The boy just wore a shoe on the rug and you've been shouting since you came back from work. The problem is not the shoe. The problem is that you've got suppressed emotion such that you have expressed irritability, withdrawal, anger, silence. About 10 of them are usually emotional numbness, overworking. And these are often cries for help disguised as personality. People say, oh, that's where I am. Oh, no, that's not the way you are, sir. That's not the way you are. All right. So we need to get to the root of it. And I also see alcohol misuse during COVID. My friend who manages an hotel said to me that they sold more than when there was no COVID because men, they were using alcohol as a maybe bulletproof, or maybe I'll call it there's this word that went off my head now. you know so many men don't even know why they are the alcoholics. And number five, signs that a man may be struggling. I need to mention that as I begin to round up. What are the signs? And the signs are not always obvious. So they're not rich. Some of them have very good, they have their beards, they look very handsome, trimmed beards, they got broad chests, they speak Queen's English. But you see, let me list about 10 of them. So, what are the symptoms? What are the signs that, a man may be struggling? One of them is struggling. A struggling man may not cry, honestly. He may become unusually quiet. He may isolate himself. He may lose interest in activities. Maybe before he used to watch soccer, I just found out that they're playing World Cup and he's not bothered. He may become short-tempered. I've seen that a lot. When I see a woman says, "Oh, my husband is short-tempered," I know it's a symptom. There is a root. He may sleep too much or he sleeps too little. He may become emotionally unavailable. He may overwork. I've seen many people overwork. I mean, I've seen many people, he may suddenly neglect his health. He may joke constantly to avoid serious conversations. You're talking to him about, so he just turns everything to a joke. Not all the time. But you see, one statement I often share is behavior is communication. I say that to people a lot in my session. Behavior is communication. So when you're silent, you're communicating. It's non-verbal cues. So instead of asking what is wrong with him, I always encourage people, please ask, what pain might he be carrying? Let me say that again. Instead of asking men, what is wrong with you? Please ask, what pain are you carrying? Would you like to share? You know, then also I need to talk about healthy coping mechanism. You see, healthy men are not men without stress. Healthy men develop healthy responses to stress, right? And as I tie it up, some practical habits include building trusted relationship or friendship, physical exercise, rest and adequate sleep, prayer and spiritual discipline, journaling. I'm very big on journaling, having honest conversations, setting boundaries, learning emotional vocabulary, taking regular breaks. I live in the UK, and I found people who, the reason why some of them live long, as much as I found some of their vices might be perhaps a bit higher than what we have back home, but reality is that they don't joke with holidays. And sometimes it's not expensive. Just leaving the city, the home, the environment where you work to go somewhere and recuperate. Coping mechanism also includes seeking mentorship, healing, because you see, healing rarely happens in isolation. I tell you that for free. Healing happens in safe relationships. Then finally, please build. I encourage men on this call to please build resilience and emotional intelligence. Now, resilience is not pretending everything is right. It's down. Resilience is not pretending everything is okay. No, no, that's not it. Right. It's knowing that everything is down, but yet being able to choose your emotions. We're human beings. We can choose. I always say that once you sit to my session, you lose your right to say somebody got me angry. I've seen people say to my office and say, "Oh, my husband got me angry, my wife got me angry." I say that's a lie. Your wife might do something you don't like. You choose anger as a response to what she doesn't like. That's what I found a lot of times. So we give the remote control of our emotions to our relationship. Oh, I told my son not to, take the car out. He took the car out, and you have been boiling at 100 degrees centigrade since he drove out, and he came. By the time he came back, it was the mechanic that said your silencer was leaking. Then say, hey, they were also, apologies for those I don't speak Yoruba. So resilience is recovering after life knocks you down. Can I say that again? Resilience is recovering after life knocks you down. Then I always encourage men, please attend emotional intelligence session. Because emotional intelligence men know how to recognize emotions, understand emotions, express emotions appropriately, manage emotions, respond rather than react. Because there are two types of men in this room. There are men who are slaves of their emotions, and there are men who are masters of their emotion. You are either a master of your emotion or you are a slave to your emotion. What's emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is the ability to remain wise when emotions are loud. Can I say that again? Emotional intelligence is the ability to remain wise when emotions are loud. So the goal is not emotional suppression, the goal is emotional mastery. Then finally, this is my finally, Rita. When and how to seek professional help. Seeking professional help is not a last, it's not a last resort. It's responsible leadership. You should seek support if you've been emotional distress for the last 8 weeks. You should seek support when your relationship are deteriorating, when your work is suffering, when you no longer enjoy life, the basic things of life that you enjoy, when you are relying on healthy coping mechanisms like coffee, like cigarettes. I always say to people that therapy is not for crazy people. Therapy is for people who want to understand themselves better, because every successful athlete has a coach. Executives have a mentor. Businesses have consultants. There's no shame in having someone to help you navigate your emotional life. January this year, I mean, by inspiration, I came up with one of our products called NERL, NERL, which is Navigating Emotions, Relationship, and Leadership. As I close, let me leave you with this thought. One day, people may not remember how wealthy you were. They may not remember what kind of cars you drive. They might not remember the job title, but they will remember how emotionally safe they felt around you. Your wife will remember, your children will remember, your friends will remember, your colleagues will remember. The question is whether you will face. The question is not whether life will test you, because life will test you, right? The question is whether you will face those battles alone. Because the strongest men are not those who never need help. The strongest men are those who know that asking for help is one of the bravest decisions they will ever make. Remember, a healed man becomes a better husband, a healed man becomes a better father, a healed man becomes a better leader, a healed man becomes a better husband, a healed man raises healthier children, healthier men build healthy families, and healthy families build healthy organizations and healthy society. Thank you. And may we all have the courage not only to be strong, but also to be emotionally whole. Thank you. I hope I've been the best in one way or the other.
And this is beautiful, Dr. Tunji. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Each time I listen to you, it's as if I've never listened to you. This is so good. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I mean, I feel so empowered. I feel like I should go and meet all the men in my corner and start saying, stop keeping quiet too. There's no reason why it should be like this. I'm sure
I hope this
everyone.
is this recorded? Is this recorded so you could
Yes,
share with them?
yes,
Oh,
it is. Yes, it
brilliant,
is.
brilliant. Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Let's
Please
go,
let's check.
man.
Use the emoji that represents how you feel right now to appreciate Dr.
Thank you,
Tunji.
James. Umar,
It's really,
thank you.
it's really a very
Otukwe, thank you.
thank you,
Thank
Doctor.
you,
It's very
Azubike.
insightful. It's so
Thank you,
brilliant, so
everyone.
beautiful. Thank
Yes.
you so much. Thank you. So now we're not done. We just even started. We'll be going into the panel session. So I will want to call on to the stage Dr. Iwu Wari and of course Mr. Chimezie Elekwachi, so that we can take this conversation further. Dr. Tunji, you are part of the panel session. Please don't go away. We're going to take this conversation even deeper. Please, Mr. Chimezie, will kindly indulge you to please come on video so we spotlight you and everyone who will be speaking. So as it is in our culture, to start with the elder people, I'm going to be starting with Dr. Iwu Wari. I'm trying my best not to murder the name. Okay, so Doctor, good to have you and thank you for joining. I'm also not going to be reading Doctor's bio. I will let him do justice to that before he speaks, before he takes the first question. Doctor, you would please introduce yourself in, of course, any format, but not lengthy format. Yeah. So the first question, and also we'll be at the end of this session, we'll be taking questions and contributions. And we also have the chat in case you do not want to forget your question, you can drop it there. And at the end of the panel sessions, we'll come to that. We'll just want to make sure we'll maximize our time and not bore you with lengthy session. So Dr. Iwu Wari, just as I said before, you would please introduce yourself before you answer this question. But the first question would be, so many men appear very successful externally, but feel very emotional, dilapidated internally. I know Dr. Tunji also touched on that, but we want you to, of course, expatiate and sort of give deeper insights and also how they can come out of it. So why do so many high performing men struggle with burnout without recognizing it? You can of course agree with me that a lot of men, just I think yes, it was Dr. Iwu that was saying it while he was on the conversation with Dr. Zibike, that he came to Nigeria to provide solutions to mental challenges, not even knowing that people do not even know what mental health is. People are so unaware of what mental health is. And this is, and we're just on that question, as if you actually knew that would be your first question, and we're just right on it. A lot of people perform very well, but then struggle with burnout without even recognizing it's burnout. So over to you, Dr. Iwari. You're muted, Doc, in case you can, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be in this panel discussion. I want to also thank Dr. Tunji for a very brilliant presentation. He seemed to have covered all the aspects of the challenges men have with respect to mental health. First, it starts with being a child, then growing up to become an adolescent, and then becoming an adult, and then becoming a married man after school, having children, because it's the journey. A lot of people do not know that there's what is called adverse childhood experiences. Children, whether men or women, go through these adverse childhood experiences, some without knowing that they were going through difficult childhood, but they grow up into adulthood. A research by CDC Case Permanente in the US some years ago said that if you don't resolve your adverse childhood experience, it will lead you it will lead to physiological health issues, multiple physiological health issues in the future. Why do men not, they appear successful, like you said, but they are dying inside, so to say. They are under crushing weight, so to say. It is because the society has made it so. The society, like Dr. Tunji also pointed out, do not allow men to express their emotions. The first time some people came back from the military expedition in Vietnam with post-traumatic stress disorder, they were not treated, they were not recognized as having been sick, because people thought that, why would you feign weakness, fatigue, you are tired, you get startled, you feel sad, and all kind of things manifesting. They say because they are weak people. And that stigma held on until the Second World War, when somebody now came out and said, look, there is what is called PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and these are the symptoms. And then they match those symptoms with the symptoms that these people manifested, and they discovered that, yeah, this is what they were manifesting, and they are actually ill. So society does not allow men to express weakness, so to say. So when men have emotional discomfort, they do not show it. They hold it, they encase it in themselves. But there's a question that we'll talk about, health, what comes after that. So Dr. Tunji also mentioned, alluded to it. There's what we call trauma somatization. Trauma somatization is the process of manifesting physical health, physical illness as a result of unresolved traumatic experiences. So the men do not show emotions in simple terms because the society does not allow them to express those emotions. They say, look, you cannot you have to hold it. And because they want to look like they are strong, even when they are not strong, they pretend, they hold on to it. You know, when a traumatic experience happens or life event happens to an individual, the structure of the human person is such that it should either run, fight, or take flight, take fright, that's express fear, or freeze. Most men are in the frozen energy mode because they don't want society to know that they are going through those experiences. So why would they do that? Because they want to remain normal, in quotes. Society programs what is normal. But this, because the society and rewards what they consider to be normal, the men will pretend that they are normal in order to become acceptable to the society. So that is why. But it has consequences. I mentioned somatization. There are other factors, physical issues like digestive problems, sleep disturbances, aches and pains, jaw clenching, digestive disorders, cardiovascular effects. A lot of people, when you ask them, how are you? They say, I'm fine. Senator Oba, I'm sure, before he collapsed and passed away, if you asked him that very morning, how are you? I'm sure he would say, I'm fine, that he's fine. But the question is, how fine are you fine? Anyone who is able to answer that question is actually fine, but not many people will be able to answer that question. How fine are you fine? You will need to go through yourself to actually find out, to know whether you are actually fine. And we cannot do that. That is why we need to subject ourselves to evaluations from time to time. We do physical evaluation for our physical health, but we don't do emotional evaluation We don't do psychiatric evaluation. We think psychiatric evaluation is for people who are mad. We don't even do social evaluation because there are instruments that can be used to know how socially viable an individual is, how socially stable an individual is. Because if you are not socially viable or socially stable, you will not be able to keep relationships with people, with wife and children at home, and with friends and colleagues outside. So we don't evaluate that. We don't evaluate our emotional wellness to look at how many trauma experiences or traumatic experiences we have encountered and we have endured. We don't do that. We don't also look at what is our reaction to these emotional, to these traumatic experiences. We don't even know. Some people say, "Oh, I'm an angry person. Don't talk to me. I am an angry person." They use these emotional responses of behavioral responses as identity to define themselves. When in 2008, I mentioned it, I had a workshop on emotional anger management. Somebody, a very senior person who has a chain of businesses, but he was my friend. He called me, "Doctor, are you saying that people can heal from their anger?" I said, "Yes." He said, "No, anger is in the blood." I said, "No, anger is not in the blood. It's a learned behavior, and you can unlearn it." So this could be part of the perceptions of people have had as a result of growing up in their own environments. So the challenge I see is lack of awareness. If people are aware, men in particular are aware, but in this case, both men and women, if they are aware of the consequences of unresolved emotional health challenges, unresolved traumatic experiences, they will take steps to heal, not only to look nice outwardly, but also to look nice inwardly. And that brings me to what I talk about. Yes.
Yeah, Doctor, I wanted to say we should sort of wrap it up because we have other questions that you'll be taking to.
All right. Okay. So let me stop there then, and then wait for other questions. Yes.
Okay, perfect. This is beautiful. I mean, this is a bank. Thank you so much, Doc. We're really in for very big learning, and I'm sure that mind shift will be happening as a result of all of this. Everyone, please let's also use our emoji at intervals to express how we feel. We'll be happy if we're doing all of that because to be encouraging. So over to you now, Mr. Chimezi. I mean, a lot of things from doctor's response got me thinking, but I think we're going to bring all of our thoughts and questions together too when it's time. So, Mr. Chimezi, as a clinical psychologist, what are the early signs of mental distress you think men should look out for, or even family members? Say you see your husband, your brother, or someone in your corner start to show some of these signs. What are really those signs you want us to know in this call to look out for? Thank you.
Okay, so good evening, everyone.
Hello, good
When
evening.
we talk about early signs, basically we should be looking at, and that cuts across all gender, whether they are male or female or all sexes. So primarily issues around sometimes some people who used to be outgoing start becoming very reclined or introverted. They also lose pleasure in the things that they used to want or things that they used to desire. They could also have some moments of emotional outbursts. They could also lose interest in pleasurable activities, and sometimes it can also lead to overeating, binge eating, or even not having appetite enough. Other issues around mental health that generally somebody should be worried about is if we use, for example, the D's. If the behavior of an individual is deviating from the general way that we know human beings behave,
Is that behavior deviant from the society, from the way an average human being should act or respond to an issue? If that behavior is deviant, then we could know that something is going wrong. If that behavior is causing the individual significant discomfort or distress, this means that it is paining the individual. So just like when we have physical health issues that causes us pain, mental health or mental ill health could lead to emotional distress, and that could be painful. So we talk about distress. If the behavior that we are noticing is distressing to the individual, then we could know that that's a sign. Also, there's another D, which is called dysfunction. Is the person not functioning well in work, in family, in society, as they used to perform? If these D's are present, then we could be worried that something is going wrong. So those are the core signs that we look at while we want to make a judgment as to what's the state of health, of mental health of an individual.
Okay, thank you for citing all of those. I'm going to come back to you after Dr. Tunji for us to get solutions or what you think first aid, it's called mental health first aid, could be when you notice some of these signs in men. I also have a bit of concern, and that will bring me to Mr. Tunji as I also ask this question. No, we can use this meeting as an instance right now as I bring you up, Dr. Tunji. You could see that men also are not usually very interested in conversations around mental health and emotions. It's as if they do not really want to get the necessary or the needed help. Look on this call. This is supposed to be a men's conversation. Check how many men are on the call. Now that makes me more worried. How can you actually help them? Because I know that the first kind of help you can give is awareness and knowledge. But I mean, how do you bring the awareness to their doorstep or put them inside their head or their mind? So I would want you to really sort of, Dr. Tunji, answer how men can really be helped. I also know that Dr. Iwuwari mentioned some part of it, right? So I want you to further expand on how men can get help, can be brought to get help, right? Or can be encouraged to get help. And also, you know how it is. Many men are taught from childhood. I think that is primarily where some of these challenges are from. Many men are taught from childhood that strength means self-resilience. It means self-reliance, it means self-sufficiency, it means manning up. I mean, whatever thing you can call it right now, but do not express weakness. You can be anything, but please, as a man, you are not expected to experience symptoms. Do not show that you are weak. Do not show you are dying. Do not show that you need help. So at what point now can self-reliance become self-isolation? And how can men recognize all of this and get help? My concern is majorly on them getting help, knowing that you already said it, you are not a man because you can man up and hold on to all of the pains. You are a man because you're able to express and also get help. Over to you, Dr. Tunji.
Thank you so much, Rita. So I always say that mental health first aid is not about being a therapist at all. It's about being the person who notices. I call the five things. You must be able to notice, you must be able to listen, you must be able to support and guide someone towards the help before the situation becomes a crisis. Um, because mental health first aid for me, because you see, many men don't openly say I'm struggling. Instead, they show you through withdrawal from family, increasing irritability, like I said earlier. But you see, to be able to get a man to speak up, you have to first choose a private calm setting. You don't, because a man's greatest asset or one of the greatest things they protect is his ego. So if you want to speak to him, choose a private calm setting, and don't say, okay, let's talk on Friday. You have to bring his reasoning. Babe, I just want us to have a private conversation. Would you be available? Can you tell me a day you'll be available? Now you have already, rented a space in his head. Then when you now have that forum, don't say, why are you quiet? Why have you not been talking? Those are wrong questions. The best question a woman, particularly wives, can ask is, I know things have not been going on well. What's the best way you think I can support you at this time? Trust me, whatever I say, will you say to me will not be used against you. Because many women keep quiet because they are scared their wife will use what they say, to them against them. So there's what I always say, that you must learn to listening is a skill. Well, we're not taught listening. I see, I mean, I see baby boomers here. Maybe they will know better than the Gen Zs. I mean, in terms of this particular thing that I want to mention, that is, when I was in school, we used brighter grammar, for English. As brilliant as that book is, they missed a chapter out, which is listening. But we were taught tenses, sense, but I mean, the one is late now. I saw that about 2, 3 years ago. We're not taught how to listen. When we do Chinese whisper, when I do corporate training, 99% of the time, what you say to someone at the beginning of the row, by the time it gets to the last, is distorted because we weren't taught to listen. We were taught to hear. So anyone who wants to help a man must first be a student of that man before he can be a teacher to the man. Yes. Yeah. So, and being a student requires listening without trying to fix everything, because many people rush to offer solutions. We are experts in that in Nigeria. Unguarded, unsolicited counsel. And sometimes the man doesn't even want counsel. He just wants someone that can understand him. So that's honestly one thing. Then because of the brevity of time, then you mentioned how to encourage men to get help. You see, encouragement to get help requires, like I said, understanding the barriers they face. Because many men are unwilling to get help. They're worried about what seeking help might say about them. So the first thing, like I mentioned in my presentation, we have to first redefine strength. And because if it's a husband and wife, because we're a stakeholder, it's difficult to get through to them, right? Because they will feel you are saying this because of you. Sometimes it takes a third party. You see, I've seen people say things like, I've never told my wife this, so I'm telling you this for the first time. It's not because I'm a professional, it's because they found my space safe to talk. So globally, generally, culturally, we have to first challenge the belief that strength means handling everything alone. So for anyone that wants to help a man, say things like, real strength is not carrying everybody by yourself. Real strength is knowing when to ask for support so you can keep showing up for the people who depend on you. How may I support you at this time? Like, then also I always say, don't compare mental health to physical health. For example, if you have a chest pain that wouldn't go away, you see a doctor. Emotional pain deserves the same attention. Then use language that resonates with a man. A man thinks, a man is more logical. So as a woman, don't bring your emotions to the conversation. Convert your emotions to logic. So rather than focusing lately on solution, just be there to listen. And don't lecture. I always say that instead of, you need to go and see someone. So I just want to listen to you. Some people, there's in one of the organizations I sit on their board, there's what we call listeners. We call them ASAD listeners. They just call in for people. They're the first aid before they can see a therapist. Just, in the Western world now, they pay people to listen. Just be listening. Then I always say to women, share stories. Hearing respected leaders, athletes, people who have gone through it, how they came out of it, it reduces the stigma and shows that successful people can also need support. So share stories, say things like, oh, we had a conversation in the office today or in a training, and they told us how Mandela had this and this. And after you spoke to, stories, it makes like a third party metaphor, you know. So I mean, let me leave it there so I can allow doctor to, also bring their own perspective. But those are my thoughts, honestly. Oh, sorry, I didn't know my video was still off. All right, over to you, Rita.
It's fine, Dr. Tunji. That was so good. I mean, I think we need a master class on how to help men with their mental health because at this point, I'm wondering what's going on. Like, why we have to set ring lights and board just to learn how to help men come out of their shell and get help. But anyways, because they are husbands, they are brothers, they are lovers, they are everything, and we want them to be fine. We are sure that as much as women, ladies, the girl child is wants to do that, men should also be willing to get the necessary assistance. Thank you so much. I'll be going over to Dr. Iwuari. So this is specifically because you are an energy psychologist and consultant. So how do unresolved emotional stress and mental strain show up physically in men, even when they insist they are coping or when they are fine? I want just in 5 minutes talk. I just want you to point out. Okay, sorry. Mr. Chimeze, you want to say something because your hand is up?
Yes, a quick one. So I want to mention a fact that, you know, sometimes we need to understand that men and women are not the same. And we can't compare, we can't make men to become women just because we want to help them.
Yes.
When we talk about men opening up and they need to talk more, it's a critical point. But the fact that a man is strong and resilient is very important for evolutionary purposes. Men are strong because fundamentally a man is supposed to protect, provide, and lead. Because of socialization, we may have tried to see that or try to make men in terms of leading and providing and protecting, that they need to be strong and not talk. But critically, we must know that a man should be strong. That is why we have more physical strength than women. So this is very fundamental when you want to look at evolution of human beings. So when we look at it from evolutionary perspective, first, men are supposed to be strong. But in that strength, we must be able to reach out to them so that the help that they need becomes meaningful to them. And there's no form of help that is meaningful than what we have seen from humanistic psychologists like psychologists who talked about the three important is genuineness. When you are having a conversation, and the person will only trust you if they see that your conversation with them is genuine. Collection of feelings. The person would only feel that you understand them if you listen enough and you are not saying, oh, I'm wearing the shoe and I know how it's paining you, but you are reflecting to them that what they are saying makes meaning and you, like you feel their pain. And then the third is unconditional positive regard. We must be able to provide an environment where an individual doesn't feel judged, doesn't feel questioned, doesn't feel downcast because he is having a conversation. Because after he feels all his emotions, he must get back to the work that he has fundamentally to provide, to protect, and lead. An experiment was done with both men and women, and women were sleeping along with men, and the cry of a baby was played, and the persons that woke up was the woman, because fundamentally, or the women, fundamentally, their strength biologically is to nurture, provide, nurture, and generally nurture a child. But in the case of men, what woke them up was the sound of like the windows shutting or the rattling of leaves, which indicated that there was a safety issue that needed to be addressed. So in providing for men, in making men to be able to have conversations around their mental health, we must make it meaningful to them. And we shouldn't try to emasculate men to be able to help them. A man should be strong, resilient, and that is the principle. But then again, it has to be meaningful to the man so that it makes sense to him to be able to trust you and have a conversation with you eventually. Thank you.
Amazing. This is so good. No wonder
Yeah.
it said nobody can
Thank you.
have. Yeah.
I
Nobody
want
can.
to quickly come in.
Okay, please
I
talk.
think
I
the
mean,
objective of discussing mental health for men is actually to provide the help not only for the men but also for society. The reason is that I remember many years ago the course in managerial psychology was instituted in the University of Ibadan, and the professor then, who was anchoring that program, told us that the reason for this program is because decision-making is being hampered in Nigeria. That Nigeria has so many things going for it. You know, human capacity, the minerals, oil, everything that a nation needs. But that the aspect of deploying effective decision-making to harness these resources has always been a problem. So one of the things that was identified was that many men go through traumatic experiences and they don't resolve those trauma, and that unresolved trauma affects mental health, affects decision-making, affects balance. So the idea is really not to beg men to go for mental health evaluation, go and treat themselves. Men generally learn the hard way by nature. If you want to cut a man, if you are not a woman, then you are cutting him for nothing. You are cutting him to be looking at you, the ego will rise and he wants to know what benefit is he going to get from this person that is talking to me. If he doesn't have any good reason, he will not listen. So naturally, it is the hard lessons that come to man when he's no longer able to do anything for himself. That is when he realizes that he must have made mistake in the past. So it shows all over. So many men that can't, because of not being emotionally intelligent in dealing with their wives and children at home sometimes, because of the ego consciousness, that authority image that they bring into family, they alienate themselves from the domestic environment, and it stretches out to even friends, consciously or unconsciously. So the man begins to be left alone at a particular age. But what we want to do is, we don't want the man to be left alone in old age. He should be able to appreciate and take care of himself, both physically and emotionally. In fact, the World Health Organization defines health as not just the absence of infirmity, but the presence of physical, emotional, psychological, social, and spiritual wellness. So this effort, that's one of the reasons why World Health Organization designated this a week or a month. They called it Men's Mental Health Week or Mental Health Month. If emotional challenges, traumatic experiences are not resolved, there are consequences. Men are not equipped to resolve these things without help. Women can easily cry to offload the pressure, although that alone does not solve all the problem, but it helps them. Men do not have that, they have the capacity to cry, but they have been socialized not to cry. And in fact, I remember when I was very small, when I'm flogged and I start crying, they say, look at this man, all those crocodile tears. That's what they call it. And that will attract even more flogging. So we are bringing help. We want men to appreciate that, look, they're also human, like Dr. Tunji has said, that you are showing resilience, masculinity, that the body is much more than that. That's at the point that you will go to the body, will say, sorry, I cannot take that anymore. So let me run down. One of the things is persistent fatigue. A man may complain of constant tiredness despite adequate sleep, low energy, difficulty recovering after work, feeling drained. Chronic activation of the body's stress responses can contribute to ongoing fatigue. This is good. This is for both man and woman. So man is not isolated from feeling the negative effect of unresolved emotions. Muscle tension and pain. Stress commonly causes neck stiffness, shoulder tightness, back pain, jaw clenching, frequent headaches. Muscles remain in a prolonged state of readiness, leading to discomfort. These are challenges that will come as a result of unresolved emotional health challenges. Even sleep disturbances, difficulty falling asleep, frequent waking up, early morning awakening, refreshing sleep, poor sleep. This can worsen mood. Somebody said, Dr. James, I have not been able to sleep in the past 3 days. When you don't sleep for 3 days, the body cannot repair itself because it is in sleep mode that the body is equipped to repair itself. So it's important that men pay attention. The idea is not to beg a man to, embrace mental health, but to run away from his possibility timely enough to avoid breaking down, so that he will be present and be physically, emotionally, and psychologically present to man the home, as Dr. Tunji has mentioned in his opening commentary. Issues like digestive problems are there. Indigestion, bloating, changes in bowel movement, bowel habits. These are the issues that the man is constantly taken to the hospital if he doesn't pay attention to his emotional health challenges, emotional health awareness, as it were. There are also issues of cardiovascular effects. People are falling and dying before help can come. Why? Because they are constantly under stress. Chest discomfort, reduced sexual health. At certain age now, they even less than 30, men are beginning to complain. They go and drink abo, they go and drink bitters because they want to keep their energy. Meanwhile, what is draining them is the emotional response to situations of life, to life event experiences, rather than seek professional help so that those things can be resolved. And it doesn't matter where it is coming from, whether it is in the home, it is in the workplace, it is in family, extended families, it's in present life or it's in past life, wherever it's coming from. They need to pay attention. Men are being awakened now. Before, we can talk about challenges in awareness, but that has also been identified, and that is why this effort is being put in place. Let us be aware. Let our men be aware that they need to take measures to attend to their mental health challenges. And that brings me to a point where that must be addressed. Emotional health challenge is different from psychiatric health challenge, and both of them constitute mental health. When we are talking about mental health, men should not think we are talking about psychiatric health issues, psychosis and all those things. No. 90% of mental health issues is emotional, and that has to do with the heart, with the heart, yes. So the men need to allow the feminine energy that they also embody to balance the masculine energy that is in them, Just as we tell women, allow the masculine energy to balance the feminine energy so that together you are able to perform effectively. Frequent illness that manifests in men is as a result of unresolved emotional issues, like I have detailed out. Before they come into be manifested to the physical challenges, they are already there. So this call is a veritable call for men. We know that the masculinity should not be challenged, but masculinity that is not covered, properly covered, to protect it from the vagaries of nature, from the emotional rascality that exists now, that masculinity is doomed to something else. And those are the things that we are talking about now, that they should pay attention. Thank you.
Doc. Yeah, thank you, Doc. I love that you took your time to explain all of that. In as much as you should be this, you should be that, just know that your health is at stake. And also, there are people you need to stay alive to watch over. That is so brilliant. Thank you, Doc. Okay, so over to you, Mr. Chimezie. You know, it has always been said that men don't cry. I know that this is one of the reasons that shaped, one of the things rather, that shape men to who they become. All of phrases like that are one of the phrases that shape men to who they become, probably why they now want to muscle up all of the emotions. In fact, for me, most times I ask men when they say, "Oh, we're not supposed to cry." Of course, it's true. I ask them one question: if you didn't cry the day they gave birth to you, trust me, they wouldn't have carried you away from the hospital. So how is it that now all of a sudden you shouldn't cry, as if you do not have all of those hormones in you? So, Mr. Chimezie, I want you to tell us what are those like phrases like the one I just did, like the example I just gave. What are those childhood experiences that, of course, has sort of conditioned men to who they become and how they also express emotions? Are you there? Can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Chimezie. You are
Yes, I
muted.
can.
Oh, great. Oh, great. Okay, please, over to you. Do you want me to take the question again, or it's network?
I heard what you said.
Oh, great. All right.
So, when we talk about ways of learning or ways of forming behavior, part of the ways that we form behavior is through socialization. And we know socialization, there are agents of socialization, and one of the main smallest unit of society, which is one of the agents of socialization, is the family. While we have the family, we also have the other agents of socialization. And men, also people learn through observation, general observation, what is called observational learning. The works of Albert Bandura would give more insight into various observational learning methods. And one of them is vicarious learning, where people just observe how an older person or another person reacts to a situation, and then they imbibe it as a way of behavior. So when you see men not crying, it may be as a result that they had grown up seeing their fathers or other men not crying even when hard events had happened. And then you just see them, they just mourn, and then they just don't express their feelings or emotions. And in that, when boys now observe this and they grow up, they see this as a way of behavior. While I think people should react to the behaviors or events that happen around them, the way that an individual decides or chooses to react to it should be best applied to the individual's disposition. So if somebody doesn't want to cry in public, the person can go in private and actually cry. If the person doesn't want to talk to everybody, an individual or a man should be able to find a trusted friend
a trusted professional primarily that they will be able to express or talk about their experiences. So our socialization, or what is called social roles, had predisposed or provides the framework of behavior. And some of those may not have been very healthy the way that they were presented or the way that it has been applied up until now. And those are the things that support men not wanting to express or cry when they experience major problems. But generally, if you want to get to an individual, you must be able to understand how the individual performs or how the individual reasons or responds to things, and then you tailor support that is best tailored to that individual's way of viewing things and understanding issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we, of course, take the mic from you right now, I want to know, to a man listening to you, to a man who has also has been shaped by some of these norms. I know they are societal and cultural norms. No man just became who they are. No man became apathetic or unexpressive. If you actually know this, that if a man was raised in an environment where they could openly express, not minding the agenda, that they would have really learned to express. So for them who has been shaped for the men who has been shaped by these norms, and of course all of these stereotypes, what is your, I mean, not just your advice now as a psychologist, what can you really advise? What are the things they can start to do other than holding on? You already mentioned one of them. Sorry, I may be distracted. You already mentioned one of them, which is, instead of crying in public, cry in private. But what if the person is so pressed? What if the person really needs to release that emotion at that point in time? What can the person do? So can you use citing this as an example? Can you also touch other areas to which a man can, of course, not mind the stereotype, not mind the norms, not mind all of those societal pegs on how a man should express? How can you advise or encourage as a clinical psychologist? Yeah.
So what we know is that to seek help cannot be overrated. When you are distressed, you are pained, you are traumatized, it doesn't, that you seek help doesn't make you less of a human being or doesn't diminish you as a person. So help seeking is something that we should all agree that anybody can need help and anybody can seek help. It doesn't matter whether you are a man, big man, a woman, or a boy. When you are in a situation where something is overwhelming, you may seek help and help to dismantle it, or help to find a conversation around it. And some of the things that we are talking about may include anger management, which may be sometimes as a result of unresolved conflict or unresolved traumatic experiences. So every man listening, or every individual listening that has a man in their life, should know that we can seek help. Culturally in Africa, we also do not even believe in mental health, because that is why most times Africans would rather talk about physical illness than talk about the way they feel mentally, which is called somatization, where we use our body to communicate our distress, and some of those things have been listed out by the earlier speakers. So what we should know is that seeking help from a psychotherapist, is not, or a clinical psychologist, is not, it doesn't diminish you. You can ask for help, you can get it, you can apply yourself, open up. Sometimes when men come into therapy, they don't even feel the need to open up and talk about the issues. Actually, they still feel bottled up. You have to be able to probe, to be able to get enough information to seek to help them. So in that regards, we need to be able to get exactly how we can help individuals. And one of them is by people realizing that help seeking is not about being weak. Help seeking even makes you stronger. It helps you to give more clarity to what you are going through, and it helps you to even relieve your stress and become even better functioning, and to be able to cope better with daily hassles and major life events. So everybody should know that help seeking doesn't diminish any individual. For men particularly, we need to be able to know that communicating and talking about our emotional issues doesn't make you a less of a man. It actually encourages you to become even better and function better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Seeking help does not make you less of a man. I think it even makes you a man because there is strength in vulnerability. Thank you so much, Mr. Chimeze. Before I come back to you for the last session, Dr. Ibuwari, yes, as we round up this session, I want you to answer one more question before we have the last advice from you for men as we mark the Men's Mental Health Month. So what are the practical techniques now that men can use during periods of overwhelming stress to regulate themselves and maintain emotional balance? What are those very practical techniques? What are those that men can use? Dr. Ibuwari, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I am also putting on my video.
Okay.
My colleague, the clinical psychologist, has advised that people who have mental health issues, they should seek help. See therapists, psychotherapists, or therapists of any other hue. I am speaking as an energy psychologist, that having studied energy psychology in the US and in the UK, which is a new field of psychology. I am able to give specific points in the body that somebody can manipulate to help himself or herself. The body has been mapped energetically to indicate those points that hold vibrational energies that when stimulated can cause a release of tension in the body. How it works is that when something happens and you feel hot, you feel emotionally disturbed, you generate bad energy, negative energy, which interferes with the energy of the body. And that creates discomfort, the dysregulation we talk about. And then, of course, it can manifest into physiological health issues, which is the somatization that has been mentioned. Now, there are very significant points in the body. The first point, which I will give away, is your collarbone. The collarbone, or just below the collarbone, is a point that when you are getting angry, maybe because it's closer to the heart, there is a formation of energy, bad energy that is going on in your system. Now, if you tap your collarbone, and another thing you will do is to also breathe in. If you tap your collarbone and you breathe, it has a tendency of opening up your system, and there will be a drain of that negative energy. So if you are getting angry, that is a very good way to release that anger immediately. You don't allow it to tarry. So if somebody is hurting you or say something bad that's upsetting you, or you are getting agitated in one way or the other, you tap your collarbone. You can tap the two of them. I hope you are seeing me, because I'm demonstrating it. You tap the two of the collarbone. It has a way of calming you down immediately. Another thing that you can do, if you can't if you are in a meeting, for example, and somebody has said something that is upsetting, you think you cannot do that, you cannot tap your collarbone so that nobody brands you. You can simply close your eyes and take a deep breath. Breathe in and breathe out. Deep breathing helps also to release the tension. That's the second thing. You know, in those days, when something happens and there's a bad news, people won't become agitated. Somebody will say, will rub your heart, will chest your chest, will say, calm down, calm down. What they are actually doing is using the energy from their palm against your heart chakra, which is the energy center for emotions. To ask you to, they rub it like this or ask you to rub it, calm down, calm down. They are not even asking you to rub, but they just stroke it from your neck down, your chest, from your neck down, stroke it. They are releasing also the bad energy that is forming or that has already been formed as a result of that hurtful emotion or that hurtful energy that has been generated. So these are something that we were doing something we do in our native environments or cultural environments that were not documented by anybody, but now they have been documented as modalities or techniques in energy psychology, energy medicine to help people release emotional dissonance in their system. So I want to leave us with these three techniques, and I hope that they will be applied. And also, one way or the other, we'll get feedback as to whether they worked or not. I know they work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. Yeah, I know they are proven techniques. I was even doing them as you were talking, and now, of course, I feel relieved. They are awesome. Thank you so much for saying. Okay, sorry. Trying to get someone into the room. Yes, thank you so much, Doc. We're going to go over to Mr. Chimezie now, please, before we'll get to that. So before we get to the very last lap or questions from you. So, we always say, let's have enabling environment for people to thrive. So I believe that because men are learning how to speak up, which we know we cannot totally blame them for not being able, because there were a lot of toxic, or let me use the word toxic, or negative vices that had encouraged them, that has built up to what they do and how they do it now. So my question now is, how can we have sort of create an enabling environment for them to feel very safe to discuss? And then when you say enabling environment, what are those things you think we can do strategically to ensure that they feel so much safe to express and to talk? You know why I'm very particular about this is because I really, really want to know one then, because most times to get men to speak up, let me even use my brothers as example, to get them to speak up, most like it's war, it's hard, and I really, really want to help them. I really want to hear what the challenge is and help them. But then you hear, what can you do? Do you think you can do anything? Do you think this is women gossip? Or do you think it's just, okay, you just want to hear it and no solution profile? Because most times that's what they do. So in what way do you think we humans, not just women, not as women, it could also even be for fellow men? How do you think you can create an enabling environment for your fellow man, for yourself, to be able to express? And also, while you are touching on that, I will want you to also tell us, and this is because you are also a clinical psychologist, you interface with these challenges almost on daily basis, and you know what must have also caused a lot of this. So if you could change one belief in the society that you think is the major reason why men are this way, what would that be? as we round up.
Okay, so I had talked earlier about the three variables that are necessary to have a healthy conversation. But before I talk about these three variables again, I would like to state that, there are things that are common to women that make sense to them. For example, if women are talking about their menstrual cramps, if women are talking about pregnancy, if women are talking about issues that are feminine, it is only someone who might have experienced it that would give clear insight as to how it pains them. And people often try to listen to people who have walked the talk, or who rather than people who talk the walk, but people who have walked the talk. So one of the very critical aspects of helping people, especially in this context, men, is to find proper mentors who would help them, who are men who have also gone through that process, who would help guide them, and then let them see what it actually means to be a man. And partly is, when we talk about emotions, people say, oh, women are more emotional than men, but every man should be a master of his or her own emotions, because anger is an emotion, sadness is an emotion, happiness is an emotion, motivation is an emotion. So every man as well also experiences various emotional states at various times. So the ability to master emotion is critical for every person, every man in this context. So uh, partly, if you want to take some strategies home, they are: number one, unconditional positive regard. So I give an example with common social media lingo that was going on in a while. This quick conversation of we listen, we don't judge. We must be able to give people opportunities to be able to express themselves without having to feel timorous, without having to feel like they will be judged for what they have said, without having to feel like they will not be loved, or their certain kind of demeanor or disposition should be acceptable and the other one should not be acceptable. If you really want to help someone, you must be able to, first of all, listen to them without them feeling like they are judged. Because if they feel like they are judged, they may just shut down and they don't have the need to be able to express or talk about their pains or their experiences. That is one. Two is genuineness. People often see genuineness from how an individual relates with them, how an individual is truthful to them, how an individual tells them what the true situation is, rather than pandering them and giving them just emotional comfort, rather than telling them what exactly the situation is. So when people feel or see or notice that they are genuinely loved without conditions, they will open up to you and have a proper conversation. And probably is the issue empathy. The one of the things that we have learned from people with disability is that we know that they don't want to be pitied. you know they don't want you to ewo so you can't see. Right, that's so pathetic. So how do you survive without your sight? Oh, it's a sad situation. But they rather would want you to tell them, how can I help you to function better? How can I support you to become more effective? What do you need to make you more productive? In what ways are you in need of help? Because when you show empathy, you are empowering the individual to become stronger and to become more resilient, rather than making them feel that the worst has happened, or that there's something that they don't have that they should have. In these regards, these three variables will help any individual, especially men, to be able to open up and talk about their issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think, I mean, let me reserve my comment because of time. We have questions and we'll just go right over them. We have questions on the chat, but then if you have a question, please, you can signify by raising your hand and we'll call you up to unmute and ask your question. But before then, while you are raising your hand, we have a question here, and it says, why do many men find it difficult to talk openly about their mental health? And what practical daily habits can improve men's mental well-being? So either of you can take the question. Anyone who wants to, Dr. Iwuare or Mr. Chimeze. Why do many men find it difficult to talk openly? I think we have talked about that, but for the sake of this question, you can, of course, stress on it a bit. And also, what are the practical daily steps that can help improve men's mental health? Over to you. Dr. Okay, please go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Chimeze.
So one of the things that I have really found out that helps is to find safe spaces. And safe spaces do not necessarily mean a virtual space or a physical space where people are safe. But safe spaces have to do with the kind of friendships that we keep, the people that are around us, the support that we get. We can create an atmosphere by selecting the right kind of friends who are understanding, who are not negatively competitive. There is a healthy competition that is good. There's a negative competition that rather demoralizes or incapacitates you when you do not meet up to a certain standard. So having healthy friendships where you help yourself, encourage each other, and find ways of supporting yourself to become better, personal development with real friends, it's very critical. People have to learn to be very intentional with the circles that they keep, because in the circles that they keep determines the kind of thoughts that they have, the responses that they do with things, how they innate the ideas they have. We learn a lot in biology when we talk cross-pollination. We see healthier pollens pollinating less healthier pollen, causing a cross-pollination, which is people who are healthy in their thoughts, having real conversations with people who may be weak in their thoughts, or maybe their thought patterns may be unhealthy. It will help them to be able to see life better and even seek help. So let's say that a man who has mental health need talks to another man who understands what it means and how important it is to talk to a professional. We'll be able to insight and support them to be able to find help. But when the of them are people who have less knowledge about what it means to have healthy mental health, when they talk about it, say, "Oh, leave that thing is nonsense." It's not to just go and sit down talking to a fellow man. What is that going to lead? Just go and make money, fine. So all of those kind of environments, people should help find them by themselves, create healthy, safe environments where they can be able to feel free to talk about their challenges.
This is it. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I don't know if Dr. Iwuare want to chip in. We are almost against time, but if not, there's another question.
Yes, briefly, the questioner is asking why do men find it difficult to address their mental health? So why men may say I am fine, because that is where we started. Why men say I am fine? It is because men have been socialized to minimize emotional pain, to continue functioning despite exhaustion, to avoid appearing vulnerable, to focus on solving practical problems rather than discussing emotions. And as a result of this, stress accumulates over months or years without being recognized or addressed. And then this will manifest into health challenges that I mentioned earlier, fatigue, and all other issues, to sleeplessness, transfer of aggression, behavioral issues. So it is important that we recognize as men that there are consequences for unresolved emotional issues. We are looking at women now as better managers, as people who can grow the economy. There's a lot of calls now for women to get more involved in politics because they look at countries that have been ruled by women and they see stability. They don't go to war. They are always after their future generations. There are reasons for this, and if you must know, it goes to the root of emotional balance and wellness. It's not that the women are perfect in that area, but they're able to manage that zone of human behavior better than men. If you check all the wars that we have fought in this world, they are always men as a result of aggression, not agreeing, rash decisions. These are factors that are driven fundamentally by unresolved traumatic experiences. We talk about ego. It is not really ego. The ego can be tamed, can be housed, but when it has to do with reactions to traumatic experiences, it becomes uncontrollable because that energy is wild. So that is why it is important that men should go beyond I am fine to resolve traumatic experiences. Thank you.
Absolutely, Doc. Thank you so much. Because of our time.